नमस्ते प्रतिभा जी, इंदा जी, विनीता जी।
नमस्ते सर।
नमस्ते सर।
नमस्ते जी, नमस्कार।
नमस्कार नमस्कार जगन्नाथ जी, कैसे हैं?
बस बढ़िया बढ़िया। गुड टू सी यू अगेन ऑन नेक पैनल।
आई एम हैप्पी टू बी हियर विद यू।
जी सर, जी सर। इंदा जी, वो हेमंत वर्मा जी और राघव जी ज्वाइन हुए हैं?
हेमंत वर्मा जी 1 मिनट में ज्वाइन हो रहे हैं सर।
राघव सर ज्वाइन नहीं किए हैं।
जेपी सर, राघव सर ज्वाइन नहीं कर रहे।
देखते हैं, मैं उनको
सर राघव कृष्ण सर अटेंडी ज्वाइन किए, उनको बुक करवा देते हैं।
ये एक चैट बॉक्स में
हो गए?
राघव कृष्ण कैन हियर यू के सर अटेंडी में तो नहीं चलेगी?
नहीं, वो सबके लिए ओपन है एक्चुअली। देखिए, नहीं तो
आगे सर, राघव कृष्ण जी आगे सर।
हाँ सर, उनको मूव करा दिया सर, वो पहले नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो अटेंडी ज्वाइन किए।
कल की तरह ही शायद मैं वेलकम रिमार्क्स करके फिर आई विल लीव इट टू प्रतिभा जी। मैं कल में हूँ।
जी सर। राघव कृष्ण सर, you can unmute yourself only. Now you are in the panelist sir.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sahu. I'm able to hear you. Namaste, Patil ji. Very good to see you again.
नमस्ते नमस्ते राघव जी। I'm glad you can make up. I'm on travel, so I'm not able to see your video. हाँ, अभी देख रहे हैं। ठीक है।
Acha. Oh, fantastic to see you, and thank you for having me here. Look forward to this.
Yes. तो हम वेट कर रहे हैं हेमंत वर्मा जी का, या फिर हम शुरू कर रहे हैं?
सर he is joining. If you permit we can start it sir.
हाँ हाँ, आई थिंक वी शुड स्टार्ट। टाइम मैनेजमेंट के बारे में तो हम थोड़ा सा रिजिड ही रहेंगे, तो ठीक है।
Okay. Good morning to all the participants, the panelists who are present in absentia, Dr. Hemant Verma ji, the Deputy Director of Education, Haryana State. On my personal behalf, on behalf of NAAC, on behalf of Director NAAC, Professor Rishi Sharma ji, we welcome you on this very important webinar which focuses on certain parameters in light of NEP 2020. To begin with the program, may I humbly request Dr. Jagannath Patil sir, advisor NAAC, to please welcome the participants, panelists, and to give a gist about today's webinar. Patil sir, please.
Thank you, Inda ji. A very warm good morning to all of you. In these cold days, we are trying to warm up ourselves. So मैं स्वागत करता हूं आप सभी का, पर्टिकुलरली आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट स्पीकर्स है, कृष्णकांत जी है, उसके बाद में हमारे राघव जी है ऋषिवुड यूनिवर्सिटी से, एंड हेमंत वर्मा जी जो डायरेक्टरेट ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन से है। On behalf of National Assessment and Accreditation Council, all family, our director Professor Sharma ji, and my Northern Region team, Dr. Pratibha Singh ji, Deputy Advisor at Delhi, Dr. Vinita Sahu ji, Dr. Sham Singh Inda ji, all the Northern Region team, and the ICT unit. I welcome you all. And today, as we have gathered here virtually to discuss about the NAAC's NEP implementation plans and how NEP will be aligned with the NAAC's accreditation process. We have taken few areas. NEP is a very ambitious document, and it will take some time, even for some activities to unfold, months, years, and some things might take even decades also. But I think ministry has already started with various arms of it under it, UGC and AICT, and various units have become functional. And now NAAC is also becoming a very important part of NEP implementation and alignment of activities of universities and colleges with the intent of the NEP. So that's why today's program is there. If key areas such as the multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary education, how the institutions are trying to integrate that approach, that is one important part. Another very important part that we are seeking through NAAC accreditation process now, trying to seek how institutions are aligning themselves, is about integrating the Indian knowledge system, IKS, or Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. And that is why today we have a very special guest, Raghavji, and I was very happy to be part of a very big event organized by the uh, Rostrum School of Leadership, Public Leadership, that is Rishihood University, IKS sale of the ministry and AICT. The program, the 15 days or 21 days program is going on currently. So ministry has taken a keen interest in taking various steps to integrate IKS with the mainstream higher education. So this is also today's focus. So we have one speaker. Krishnakant ji is obviously an authority on all NEP related issues, and he has been with us on NEP related activities so far. So he will throw light on all the aspects of NEP, but we expect Raghavji to focus on the IKS so that our participant can benefit from that point of view. And obviously, Hemant Verma being in authority in state of Haryana, can encourage the institutions to come forward. So the points of IKS and then interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary education, then outcomes-based education, another component emerging very strongly on the scene of higher education is about online education. So that component also is part of the 6 parameters that we are going to discuss today. So I think without taking much of your time, I once again welcome you all and uh, thank once again all the speakers and look forward to the exciting discussion today. I may not be able to join fully for the discussion as I am traveling outside, but I'm sure my colleagues, Dr. Pratibha Singh ji, Vinita ji, and Inda ji, will steer the proceedings of the webinar. So thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for elaborating on the gist of today's webinar and giving a brief about the panelists today. Sir, Dr. Hemant Verma, sir, has already joined. So I take this privilege also to welcome Dr. Hemant Verma, the Deputy Director, Higher Education, Haryana. Before inviting sir, I'll just read a brief write-up of sir. I know all from Haryana state, most probably would be knowing, but for the benefit of the panelists and few participants, I'll just give a gist about sir's CV. Dr. Hemant Verma is a teacher turned administrator. Before he joined education administration, he was an associate professor in various government colleges of Haryana for more than a decade. During his period, he devised various programs and conferences towards pedagogy of English, widening the field to generate fresh thinking on purpose and strategy. He has also authored one book on AIDS and has contributed to various seminars, orientation, and reflection courses as a resource person. Further, he has organized national and international seminars as coordinator, convener. He has also organized a 3-week refresher course in English language. Dr. Verma, he has brought considerable skills and understanding as a teacher in terms of education administration, currently serving as Deputy Director Higher Education, Haryana. He has drafted many important policy acts and schemes for students benefit, teachers benefit during the last 12 years. He is also holding post of Additional Director in Foreign Cooperation Department, Government of Haryana. He has proven his abilities towards team building and interpersonal skills, contributing successfully toward the implementations of ambitious policies of Higher Education Department and Foreign Cooperation Department. During the current pandemic, that is the recent lockdown, COVID-19, Sir has initiated and organized various training programs for the principals of government colleges of Haryana. These days, he is taking a keen interest in opening up the world of interactive digital learning to the teachers and students of Haryana. In a very short span, he has galvanized the state higher education scene with extensive use of shared platforms so that rural students too have acquired ease in negotiating internet applications and using them to supplement their learning. Sir, it's a privilege and we thank you for accepting our invitation to be chief guest for this important webinar in light of NEP 2020 for Haryana State. So, okay, we request you to please deliver an inaugural address, sir, as a chief guest, Dr. Hemant Verma ji.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Shyam Singh Inda. respected Pratibha ma'am, present panelist, other panelists, and principals, registrars, deans of universities, my colleagues of various colleges and universities in Haryana. So it's my proud privilege to be a part of this conference. This is a very important initiative taken by NAAC because as per new education policy, there are many changes which will be coming in our academic setup in the times to come, be it a multidisciplinary kind of education, then be it output metrics, then be it various changed parameters of NAC. When we talk of NAC A and A, assessment and accreditation processes, which have significantly changed over the years. So this is a very important initiative taken by NAC. And on behalf of Department of Higher Education, Government of Haryana, brought us face to face in the last 1 year or 1 year or so. As far as the implementation of NEP in Haryana is concerned, so our Honorable Chief Minister Haryana, he is very passionately monitoring the implementation process of national education policy in the state, and we have a target of implementing all major components of NEP by the year 2025. So the department, the universities and the colleges are working towards that goal. We have set up some timelines for implementing all the changes, necessary changes in the current scenario. For example, when we talk of multidisciplinary institutions, so as of date, Haryana already has 8 state universities which are multidisciplinary in nature, which have faculties like engineering, which have faculty like arts, humanities, and other social sciences also. So, but when we talk of multiple exit and entry for students, for that we need to overhaul the present setup. And for that, universities, state universities are gearing up themselves as well as their colleges. So similarly, in other areas like assessment and accreditation, then ICT enable institutions, colleges, and universities like uh, other NEP, these issues are not coming to my mind right now. So we are working on all the parameters, and we'll be holding state level conferences. We have already held state level conferences and workshops with our stakeholders, but now we'll be hand holding with the help of our universities and with the help of NAC, so that our colleges, they are well geared up for all the implementation processes as far as NEP is concerned and NAC is concerned. So I thank you again, NAC authorities, for providing us with this platform. And I'm hopeful that we will be able to grasp many new innovative initiatives, which NAC will be, our resource persons in today's conference will be providing to us, and it will be a beneficial learning for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hemanji, for motivating us also and highlighting on the various important initiatives taken by Higher Education Department Haryana, and especially the Chief Minister in implementations of this NDP 2020. We'll also look for future association with you. Sir, for your kind knowledge, in the panelist, we have Dr. Krishnakant Agrawalji, Principal from Agrawal College, Haryana. We also have Shri Raghav Krishnaji, Associate Dean Academics, Rostrum School of Public Leadership, Rishi Road University, Sonipat, Haryana. We also have Dr. Jagannath Patil, sir, Advisor NAAC, Pratibha Madam, sir, already you know, and Dr. Vinita Sahu, Assistant Advisor, Math, sir. Thank you, sir. We hope for such future cooperations also. Moving ahead with the program, we have in the panelist Sri Raghav Krishna Ji, Associate Dean, Academics, Rostrum School of Public Leadership, Recruitment University, Sonipur, Haryana. Sir has around 17 years of corporate experience with expertise in leading cross-functional creative product development teams. In his last role as a development director of Electronic Arts, he led the operations for the Electronic Arts mobile game development studio in Hyderabad, engaged in crafting highly refined digital consumer experiences for global markets with a P&L of 50 million and a player base in excess of 3 million. After his corporate stint, he moved into public policy to engage directly with India's governance needs. He is a student of Indian civilization thought and is currently pursuing his PhD from Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith. Sir is also the founder of Prekarna Learning and Development Solution Private Limited, where he trains corporates and universities on creative product development skills such as design, thinking, decision making, mental models, and leading creative teams. Sir, it's a privilege for us to be here to invite you as a panelist, and we thank you for accepting our invitation as a panelist. So we request to kindly take the forum for the benefits of the participants. Over to you, sir.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste, everyone. Am I audible? Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Right, thank you. Thank you for this invite. It's a privilege and honor to be amongst such an august assembly of Vidvans. This is really a Vidvat Sabha, and an honor also to listen to the inspiring vision set by the minister, and also to understand how the government of Haryana is executing on this important mandate of national education policy. I'd also like to thank Jagannath Patil ji for considering me worth to be speaking in this forum, and I'm very, very excited to try and talk a little bit about a specific component of the national education policy, which to my mind really defines the word paradigm shift. I've heard it being used a couple of times. Jagannath Patil ji spoke about the intent, and Hemant ji reminded us about the paradigm that we need to inhabit if we have to really fulfill the vision of the new education policy. And all of this actually, in my mind, anchors in the preamble, if you so to speak, that the NEP sets out when it talks about three things which are essentially our core values of our civilization, which is Jnana, Satya, Pragya. The national education policy clearly sets out this vision earlier in the document, and it talks about a wholesome development of an individual towards truth-seeking, using knowledge, and with the discipline and the ability to develop your own perceptual faculties. Now, if we think about this, this is directly talking to a tradition of knowledge. It is talking to a public culture that is very rich and informed by not just knowledge and philosophy, but also by the wisdom traditions that come from different experiences of communities living in India. So when we talk about Indic knowledge systems and the mandate of NEP to try and orient our education and the human development that processes through the education system, this is not just about an academic pursuit. This is really linking the purpose of education to national sovereignty, to strategic autonomy, to the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat that our Honorable Prime Minister has given us. So if you have to distill the core essence of what the fundamental shift is as part of this new education policy, having studied this document and having been in this area of trying to pilot some thinking around Indic knowledge systems and their application in different areas, we are very, very happy and proud to notice this emphasis and support from the government to reorient education in our own knowledge systems. And I will try and talk a little bit about that today, use a few examples to highlight what I mean. Vinita ji, I had shared a presentation, if it's okay, that can be brought up, or if I have the access to money.
Yes, sir. No, sir. It is okay, sir. You can share. Some share option will be provided to you.
Okay.
You just click on the share and then the PPT.
Okay, sure. Let me just give it a try.
Yeah, please try. No problem.
Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir, we are able to see. Just do it full screen, sir.
I will. Is this
Okay.
okay now?
Yes, sir,
Alright.
perfectly fine. Yeah, please.
Wonderful. Just a quick introduction about the Rostrum School of Public Leadership that I represent. This is part of one of the 5 schools at Rishi Hood University. Rishi Hood University is a social impact university that was set up and recognized by the government of Haryana in 2020. We've started our academic programs, and Rostrum is an autonomous school within the Rishi Hood University. We were earlier called Vision India Foundation. It was incubated at IIT Delhi in 2014, and years we've conducted various programs in public policy and governance. And over the course of the last 6 years, we also recognized the need to institutionalize public policy and governance and leadership development for the public in an academic form. That is when we joined Rishi Hood University to start a PGD program in public leadership and also a Master of Arts program. The entire program is grounded in Indic knowledge systems, and the idea that we have, the vision that we've given ourselves, inspired by Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo and the Rishis who've given us a vision for education, is to really generate self-aware and civilizationally assured public leadership for India. I think both these words are very critical for us to reflect. They also represent the core of the conditions that we face today as a nation, and the purpose of education itself. The National Education Policy clearly lays out that the vision of education is to develop a self-aware individual who is capable of being a productive part of the society. And our endeavor at Rostrum is to try and orient this in 3 specific areas. One is academic leadership, which includes both research and also the institutional building aspect of academia. The political leadership, which includes, of course, the electoral politics, and if somebody wants to get into the cut and thrust of that, but also the thought building around governance and leadership itself of a political kind. And lastly, we also focus on civil society leadership. We feel that these 3 areas need to work together for us to have a coherent public culture. That's our vision, and we have our first cohort going on. About 25 learners have joined to take this program. And what I share is a reflection that has actually helped us move in this direction. When we think about a shift like a new education policy, and when we're talking about Indic knowledge systems, like Patilji also mentioned, it can feel overwhelming because all of us are used to a certain paradigm. The processes have been set in that direction. Our competencies have been developed in accordance with that. But there is clearly a need and a compelling exhaustion from the education policy that we get. And I think that is essentially because it recognizes that the trajectory that our education system is in and the kind of change that has happened in the environment around us globally, and therefore by extension, the impact that it has on India, means that we will have to reimagine this. And I do not use this word lightly. I know that there is a fashion to use disruption, reimagination, this kind of words, in a loose way. But I think the new education policy makes a very responsible and a very persuasive attempt to help us go through this journey. I'm inspired by this quote by an ecologist who talks about the problem of ecology, problem of the very sustainability of the planet, that the only one that we have, is that we must now have to do the impossible because the probable has become unthinkable. I invite everyone to reflect on this whenever we attempt to make a change of this kind. It is only natural that we are also held back in some ways by just the comfort of the familiar. But we should ask ourselves as teachers whether the familiar is actually helping us get into the future, or if it is actually actively shunting the possibility of a future. So it might be it might seem impossible, or it might seem a little like Patilji said, it might seem a little distant. But the effort must be made, and then in all of our experiences and in our own brief journey at Rostrum, we've seen that once you start making the first few steps, the emergent property takes over, and you have an entire system that works for you. And with the policy in place, it allows large-scale collaboration to make this easy. Let me just delve into what this really means. What are the kind of questions that educators should be asking themselves? Why should we even talk about a new education policy or an accreditation for that, or a whole ecosystem of developing new competencies? At a very macro level, we are going through what we call, and the scientists have also accepted this now, this is the age of Anthropocene. Essentially, this means that human activity has now reached a proportion which can really dictate the entire course of nature itself. In other words, our actions are having a direct impact on the natural cycles that we see. It is not actually a moment of pride, it's a moment of recognizing our responsibility, but also our vulnerability. If we are guiding nature in a specific way today through our actions, it is not that nature needs our protection, it is that we need to be protected by nature. And our actions, if they are not in consonance with the natural cycle, will only accelerate our extinction. So at a very, very macro level, at a global level, there is this entire spectrum of just the sustainability of the planet that is hanging over us. If that is the case, then what should be the kind of education that we should be looking at? What kind of economic systems, what kind of ecological systems, what kind of scientific measurement, what kind of philosophical systems are important for us to recognize this as a collective, especially at a time when your political sort of institutions at a nation state level do not permit you to collaborate globally. The COP26 just finished, and for those of you who must have followed this, you might have seen this, right? Similarly, how do we make this aspirational and accessible, and how do we add value to humanity through education? So why IKS? A very quick backdrop. I come from a public leadership paradigm, so I'm used to thinking in frames of public leadership and public policy and governance. There are four major issues that inhabit the global political landscape, but definitely the Indian political landscape as well. There are four kinds of friction, if you will, that we're seeing. There is a tension between the individual and collective. There is a tension between collective and another collective. There is a tension between tradition and modernity, and there is a tension between the short term versus long term. Faculty, education, administrators, university heads, public leaders, all of us have to really reflect on these four kind of problems that we face today. If we are to really look at an education system that can help us thrive, it means that we have a means to solve these kind of tensions in a creative way, but also in a way that takes people along. Right? So when we think about Indic knowledge systems and Indian knowledge systems and why we should actually not just root for it, but also recognize the imperative of that in today's context, it is that the civilization that we have, a continuous living experience going back several millennia, has the experience of dealing with this kind of problems, simply because we've been there. Forget everything else. But the fact that we have continuous living experience as communities, as people living together in Bharatavarsha, gives us this, almost in our DNA, we have the ability to fuse the opposites and make sustainability possible. So when we go back to our knowledge systems, it is not actually a going past or a journey into the past. It is actually creating the ground for the future, because we are seeing that the problems are there in our present times, which need a different paradigm. Clearly, just a belief in individual right of one kind cannot solve all of these tensions. You need a different dharma kind of logic, which can help all of us navigate through this. So that's one reason to think about what is the need. Already mentioned this, the link between academia, politics, and civil society, which we feel very, very strongly at Rostrum about. Essentially, any nation, any country, any state has three fundamental concerns. The question of who we are, which is a question of identity. The question of how do we come together as communities, as people, as different people from different ethnicities, to create something which is stable. And once we have a sense of who we are, and once we are able to create a stable system, then it is actually the normal enterprise and creative skill of people who exercise that skill to generate prosperity. This is the virtual cycle or virtuous cycle that we need to really imagine and architect in a society. Resolving the question of who we are, creating conditions for all of us to come together, and creating the ability for all of us to exercise our creative potential to generate prosperity in a sustainable way. So this is what when we map it to the systems or the places that need to generate this, we see it as the public leadership should be a symphony between academia, politics, and civil society. And the new education policy, when it talks about an ethical being, a social being, when it talks about higher order cognitive faculties, it is essentially talking to this level of thinking about the nation. So that is also another reason why we have to look back at our own sources of knowledge, not just the sources of knowledge, but also the ways of knowing that knowledge, the epistemology of that. Now, if we have to bring this down to a fundamental role of educator in molding a person, a human being to the fullest potential, we have to go back and understand what is the makeup, what is the essential constitution of a person. And today, it's obvious that we're all living in a world of very, very high information saturation. And what affects us is really the information that is just given to us incessantly by different mediums. We're all exchanging information digitally today. We are all drawing our opinions from that. And when these opinions become hardened into beliefs, the beliefs also become our boundaries. So it is very, very critical for us to understand how do we actually go through this process of forming an opinion? How is a belief formed? So if you look at actions are at the surface level, which then goes to beliefs, and beliefs come from certain conclusions which originate in assumptions. But the assumptions themselves are grounded in cultural and personal meaning that we add to the data that we get. And this data that we get is actually what we conceive through our senses. This is where the whole idea of yoga and Ayurvedic psychology comes in. Because the yogic and Ayurvedic method of learning or method of understanding the human constitution goes into the very fundamentals of how we are physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. So the other reason, a compelling reason for us to think about the why of IKS is that IKS really is the process of worldview formation based on the correct understanding of human constitution. The process of worldview formation based on a correct interpretation of the human constitution. If there is one thing that we need to remember about the need for IKS, I would urge and I would request that we consider and reflect on this. So how does this all come together in NEP? NEP lays a particular focus on not just the literacy and numeracy, but also the higher order capacities, cognitive capacities like I mentioned. It talks about Gnan, Pragya, and Satya, and it looks at acquisition of knowledge not as an end to itself, but as a means for living a happy and productive life, a life that is useful for society. And it is the idea of Sarvamukti that really guides all of this. Liberation has never been an individual project alone in Bharat. It has always been a community project. It has always been about uplifting the entire community. And that should really be the role of education in this. And this also means that education has to be multidisciplinary, and it needs to have a vision for unity of knowledge. And it needs to have an understanding of the larger societal issues, the ethics of our current issues, and also the values that Constitution and our own civilization provide us with. Okay? And language and the ability to learn and the ability to express and articulate are sort of means and tools that we have. And that we must inculcate in our young learners to actually deal with this level of complexity that they are inheriting. Okay. Just framing that as knowledge, skills, and temperament, we notice that we need to know a wide range of things. We need to know about society, tradition, constitution. We need to understand nations, states, and governments. We have to understand politics and policy. We have to develop the skills of research, analysis, persuasion. We also have to have a global outlook of the geostrategic and geo-economic affairs. But all of this has to be grounded when we collaborate with each other as institutions, as individuals, when we collaborate with the state. We have to develop this ability in our young people to remain humble, to be patient, to develop the endurance required to actually execute a vision, but also be resourceful at the same time. So when we look at education, in our understanding, we're thinking about knowledge, skills, but also the temperament that can actually make the application of knowledge and skills possible. So what does IKS really mean? It's a long subject. It will take an entire year for us to even scratch the surface. But I find this representation useful. When we talk about a knowledge system, it's an important word that we need to remember. We are not just talking about a disparate arrangement of knowledge. We are talking about a full system that is capable of really elevating all of your cognitive capacities, your attention, focus, your memory, your ability to stay calm, your ability to reason out, your ability to argue, your ability to be emotionally balanced, your ability to pursue a life of meaning. All of these things come from a certain source that we have, and that source is really the knowledge inheritance that we are lucky to be recipients of. It goes right from Vedas to Upavedas, Vedangas, to Smritis, Dharmashastras, which are then codified as parables. If you think about our Itihasa tradition, Mahabharata and Ramayana, there cannot be a better pedagogy than the storytelling of Mahabharata and Ramayana. The entire wisdom that is required to lead a productive life is all encoded as stories in Itihasa and Puranas. It also then is institutionalized in the form of Agama, which gives you access to certain spaces of power. And all of that culminates into what we call darshanas, the Shed Darshana in the Indian philosophy, which is really a distilled summary of all the tradition that has happened before that. We have this fount. We have this amazing and really inexhaustible corpus of Indian knowledge systems that we can all draw from. What we need to do today is create a comfort with access, an aspirational value, but also focus on contextualizing and making all of this knowledge applicable, in a manner that our young people will once again resonate with it. So, there's also the whole idea of multidisciplinary. I will end with just one example of what Indic knowledge systems can do when you think about multidisciplinary. Today, when the education policy talks about multidisciplinary, unfortunately, while the vision is great, it will still lead us astray if we anchor that in somebody else's definition of multidisciplinary. Not because there is intolerance, but because there is a specific historical experience that determines and influences the way that knowledge system and that value system has evolved, and that is not the history that we share. And therefore, when you try to superimpose an alien history into a society as complex as India is, you are actually creating a recipe for trouble. All of the problems that I mentioned in terms of friction between individual and collective, different collectives, tradition and modernity, in a way can be traced back to this experiment that we've done with education to superimpose some other value system coming from a different history. But let's just take one example of what multidisciplinary looks like in the Indian knowledge systems. I take this from, I learned this from Vinod Vidmanji, who is a cognitive philosopher and professor at Flame University. And he gave us this example when he was talking about the unity of arts in the Indian vision. From Vishnu Dharottara Purana, a conversation between King Vajra and Rishi Markandeya. And the king wants to know about how to become an artist. And he starts with, how can I know painting? Right? How do I become a master painter? So Sage Markandeya tells him, you cannot know painting unless you know the whole science and art and craft of image making. So he establishes a link between one kind of knowledge to another kind of knowledge. And then he says, how can I know the image making process or the canon of painting? He says, you cannot do that unless you do not have an understanding of Natya coming from Nritya Shastra. So unless you know the Hava Bhava and unless you're able to understand how the human anatomy processes this, and therefore you develop a kind of intelligence about it, you cannot really be a master of image making without actually understanding the idea of dance in the Indian tradition. Then King Vajra asks, so how do I actually go out and understand about dance? Says you cannot understand dance unless you understand instrumental music, unless you get into the world of Shraddha and Atodhya. Dance cannot be known without understanding or having a sense of music. He says, how can I get the knowledge of music? You cannot know the knowledge of instrumental music unless you know your own vocal music, unless you know your own anatomy. And you cannot know that without actually understanding the whole idea of prose, verse, and meter and intonation. So when you go back to the Indic knowledge systems and you look at Vedas and Upavedas, one of the or the Vedangas, you notice that this is the vision of this unity that gives us the structure. There is an idea of Chandas, there is an idea of Kalpa, there is an idea of Vyakarana, there is an idea of actually reasoning out in Nyaya Darshana, the ability to actually explain your argumentation through Tarka. All of that leads us to what we call truth. And this multidisciplinary vision has always been the vision of Indian civilizational systems, Indian knowledge systems. We do not need to borrow the idea of multidisciplinarity from anyone else. We have, quite frankly, the richest source available to anchor any pursuit of multidisciplinary and education that evolves. So I'll stop there. I hope I've given you a bit of a taste of what Indic knowledge systems looks like. I'd be happy to take any questions either now or towards the end of the session. I'm sorry if I exceeded my time, but I hope it was useful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for beautifully highlighting on Indian knowledge systems and its importance, especially on a very important aspect such as Markanda and Vajra. It has also given us a deep insight on which we are also not aware. We hope that participants also have been benefited. We will have a question and answer session after at the last. So I think there will be a lot of queries from the participants. So we request you if you would be available for the queries also, sir.
I'll be happy. I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Moving ahead with the program, we have a stalwart in the field of higher education, Dr. Krishnakant Agrawalji. I take this opportunity and privilege also that he has accepted our invitation to be a panelist out of his very busy schedule also. Sir is currently the principal of Agrawal College, NAAC accredited A++ college grade. Sir is an expert academician and academic leader in the education arena in the country. He is having teaching and administrative experience of more than 3 decades, that is 32 years, more than 12 years as a PG principal, and he joined the principal of this college, this prestigious college, Agrawal College, on 24/8/2009, more than a decade ago. He holds a doctorate degree in physics. He has been an excellent researcher with more than 319 research publications in international and national journals and conferences. He has been to various countries such as USA, Japan, Spain, Taiwan, Iran, Mexico, and Austria to name a few for academic pursuits. He has completed around 5 research projects and 4 research scholars have successfully completed their PhD under his guidance. True to his spirit, Dr. Krishnakantji has organized more than 75 national as well as international seminars, conferences, FDP, and workshops for academic leaders, principals, and faculty members on various contemporary issues. He has participated and contributed as a speaker in more than 87 national and international seminars, webinars on higher education issues, assessment and accreditation process, internal quality assurance system, quality and values in education, best practices, and national education policy 2020, so on. Besides having 50 international conferences as a speaker and more than 100 national conferences, he has also attended several research training programs of NAAC, refresher, FDP organized with various academic staff, colleges, and institutions. Sorry, it's privilege on our part that you have accepted our invitation, and we are sure that the participants who are present out here and we who are the part of panelists will be deeply and emotionally would benefited from your knowledge and wisdom in the field of higher education, especially in the field of national education policy 2020. So now my humbly request you to please take on the forum and deliver your expertise in the field of national education policy 2020. Dr. Krishnakant Agrawalji, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shyam Singh Indaji. Respected chief guest of today's function, Dr. Hemant Vermaji, Deputy Director, Higher Education, Haryana. My fellow speaker, Sri Raghav Krishnaji. Officials from NEC, Dr. Jagannath Patilji, Advisor, Dr. Pratibha Singhji, Deputy Advisor, and Dr. Vinita Sahuji, Assistant Advisor, and learned colleagues from various higher educational institutions from Haryana. At the outset, I wish to thank the National Assessment and Accreditation Council for providing me this opportunity to share my views on such an important topic which is being deliberated pan-India these days. And before I say something, kindly permit me to share my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that share option is there. Yes.
Is it visible, Vinita ji?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Thank you. So as Dr. Shyam has already described about me, I am heading one postgraduate college here in Faridabad, Haryana. And this college is accredited A++ by NAAC. Apart from this, the college has CPE status, and we have Paramarsh scheme of UGC also for mentoring higher education institutions for assessment and accreditation. I have taken some photographs or slides from internet or from books of various authors. So I express my gratitude to all of them. These are two very important sentences. हम कौन थे, क्या हो गए और क्या होंगे अभी, आओ विचारें आज मिलकर ये समस्याएं सभी. I personally believe that the policy makers, the academic leaders, the administrators must have thought like these lines are talking about, and only then this National Education Policy 2020 has come. Apart from this, we have these lines also. यूनानो मिस्र रोमा सब मिट गए जहां से, अब तक मगर है बाकी नामो निशा हमारा, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सद रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा. When I look at these lines, I am reminded of our Indian tradition of education. We have a very strong and rich education system in the past, and on account of that system, the product of those systems were like Chanakya, who wrote Arthashastra, Panini, who wrote Ashtadhyayi, Vishnu Sharma, who wrote Panchtantra, Charaka, who gave Charak Samhita, Banabhatta, Kadambari, in which he is talking about 16 Vishaya and 64 Kalas. What my earlier speaker was talking about, that if you have to do painting, then you have to read this, you have to read this, you have to read this. I think all these systems were in place in our ancient education system, and this is clearly mentioned in, as I am talking about, the Banbhatta Kadambari. And about Jivat, these products of these ancient institutions, which were very rich, where even the students from abroad used to come and take the knowledge using Indian knowledge system. When all this was there, then what did happen in the past, so that our system deteriorated like anything? So it reminds me of some lines which are written at the entrance gate of a university in South Africa, which says destroying any nation does not require the use of atomic bombs or the use of long-range missiles. It only requires lowering the quality of education, and which is also reinforced by a statement by Martin Luther King Jr. The collapse of education is the collapse of nation. We need to inculcate the spirit of quality education in our children. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. When this type of environment prevailed in the country, how did it happen? So everybody will remind this gentleman, Lord Macaulay. But I say that when he gave this education system, but for how long we will curse this fellow? Hundreds of years have passed, more than 100 years passed, but why couldn't we improve upon that system? So the issues which are even prevailing today in our institutions, higher education institutions, are accountability to our students, satisfying needs of industry, maintaining academic standards, accountable to grant providing organizations, and accreditation of course. And issues in teaching and learning are students intake, staff, teaching process, assessment, courses, and facilities. Present education system. Instead of imparting knowledge to the students, we are still using the traditional classrooms and covering the syllabus. You will laugh at this picture, but simply we are covering the syllabus. And most of the institutions are affiliated to the universities because that system prevails. But all the academic activities in colleges have been sought to be regulated by affiliating universities through the syllabus, courses, and examinations. Consequently, there has been no attempt at quality enhancement or quality assurance involving innovative practices and going beyond the curriculum at the college levels. And as far as the Department of Collegiate Education is concerned, It also restricted itself to the regulation of colleges through administrative controls under the assumption that academic matters did not come under its purview. This is the current situation, factory model of education we are using, where the student is considered as a raw material, and when they come out as a product, creativity, discipline, and intelligence is lost somewhere. This is inbuilt in NEP 2020. The student is asking to the teacher, if a single teacher cannot teach all the subjects, then how can you expect a single student to learn all the subjects? So this multidisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approach address to this question. We focus on rote learning as of now. The student come to the class, we impart information, he claims the things, put in the exam, gets marks and degree, nothing else. I will teach you concept of physics, no students wants. I will teach you how to get 90% in physics. There is a great rush. So it is a mark-centric and package-centric approach. And on account of this, the entire stress is on the student. When Swami Vivekananda said that education is the manifestation of the perfection already in men. So education has to, the right kind of mechanism has to be adopted wherein we can try to manifest the perfection. But in our present system, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Whether he is expert in that field or he is not expert in that field. There are certain animals standing and interviewers are sitting and all are asked to climb the tree. But can a fish climb the tree? No. The fish has got several qualities. Potential is there, but it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. So this is the present prevailing system. So all is not well with the higher education. When the student comes to the school, he is laughing, the face is concave. But as he progresses, the stress builds up and concave is changed to convex. When all this is prevailing in the system, so as a result, what is happening? We have more focus on degrees. The students are not employable, spoon feeding is there, skill is not there. We focus only on intelligent quotient, mark centric, and we don't focus on physical, spiritual, moral, and emotional quotients. There is lack of social awareness, creativity, commitment. This news item I read on 11th of November that last year 12,500 students committed suicide in India last year at the rate of more than 34 a day, an increase of more than 21% compared to 2019. Now we as the academic leaders and policy makers, we have to think what has happened to those students, what is wrong with our education system, why we could not make them physically, morally, emotionally strong. So these are the various questions which are addressed in the NEP 2020. So this is the evolution. This is not the first time the education policy has come. There has been various commissions, committees, but NEP 2020, because it is based on the Indian knowledge system and addresses to all the challenges which are prevailing in our country these days. So this is being talked much about. But if you see at Education Commission 1964 to 66 under Dr. D.S. Kothari, if you look at the preamble, the first sentence in the preamble was the future of India is being shaped in our classrooms. Please see how much responsibility was given to the teachers, was given to the educational institutions, that the future of India being shaped in our classrooms. When this responsibility was given to us, we should think, we should ponder over that. Could we come up to the expectations of those recommendations? Definitely, I personally believe not. That's why the situation which I have described earlier prevailed and prevailing in our country. This is the background of NEP. 68, 1986, 2020, this is a 5+3+3+4 structure. All of you must have gone through. And these are two documents, one is in Hindi and another is in English. 65 pages in English and 107 pages in Hindi. And this has already been approved on 29th July of 2020. I would call upon all my colleagues, my friends from education fraternity, that please go through these documents if you have not. I have been on several platforms, and when we ask that how many of you have gone through these documents, very few people raise their hands, because these documents are very important, and unless you go through these documents, you are not sensitized to the objectives and outcomes of NEP 2020. So please go through these documents. National Education Policy, the vision of the National Education Policy is to establish new dimensions for Indian universities and other higher educational institutions. It gives freedom to higher educational institutions and universities to redefine their role towards making new India. The main tenets of the policy are flexibility, equal promotion of arts, science, and physical education and extracurricular activities, multidisciplinary approach, cultivating life skills, regular formative assessment for learning rather than the existing summative assessment. Yes, this is very important. आपने सुना भी होगा कि यदि कोई कुक यदि खिचड़ी भी बनाता है तो he has 3 assessments. First he checks up with the ingredients, that is the initial assessment, which you called as assessment at the time of entry, and during the process again he checks it, that is the formative assessment, and when he serves it to the guest, before that also he tastes it, that is the summative assessment. So we focus only on summative assessment, wherein at the end of end semester examination, during that examination the students go to the evaluation process. But formative assessment is very, very important, and this is known as the continuous internal evaluation for students in educational institutions. Paradigm shift की बात सब लोग कर रहे थे, तो definitely there is a paradigm shift. The name of the ministry has already been changed. This was the first step taken by the government. Curriculum design, teaching, learning, assessment, conventional education to holistic education, memory based to innovative and creative learning, curriculum delivery. We have to shift from pedagogy to andragogy. Pedagogy is basically teacher centric, where every student is looking towards the teacher, and whatever the teacher wants to teach, he or she is teaching. This is unidirectional flow of information. Why always I am talking that information? Because that content is available at internet. Even the students can get that. But unless you mix your experience, unless you assimilate that information with your own experience and transfer it to the students, we cannot say that knowledge is being transferred. And more so, we have to make a transition from pedagogy to andragogy, and andragogy is the learner centric. What the student wants, we have to give that content or that knowledge to the students. Credit based multiple entry exit system is there. Then to enhance research facilities, more budget, fast track promotion and awards incentive for performers. कुछ लोग कहते हैं यूनिवर्सिटीज या कॉलेजेस में काम करो या मत करो, टाइम बाउंड प्रमोशंस हैं, ग्रेड्स हैं, बट हियर फास्ट ट्रैक प्रमोशन का प्रोविजन है. Training of academic leaders to make them effective academic administrators. Training is very important. Obviously, some foreign universities will be opened in the country, research intensive and teaching intensive institutions, and integrated teacher education program 4-year B.Ed. And flexibility for students, of course, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, which means more flexibility for students, including off campus in various courses, to allow them to take their academic journey at their own pace. 1-year PG, 4-year UG, all this has been talked about in earlier programs. Students will also be able to avail an academic bank of credit, which will digitally store academic credits from different institutions. I will be talking in detail about this. And MPhil will be discontinued. More choices for students, fee capping is there. Private higher education institution will also be encouraged to offer more scholarships. Measures such as online courses and digital repositories, funding for research, improved student services, credit-based recognition of MOOCs and all that. More autonomy for colleges. Graded autonomy has been talked about. Autonomous or constituent colleges will be there. A+ and above graded institutions, they will have academic freedom and can run their own programs and multidisciplinary courses and provide degree. This point is very, very important. Why the institutions should upgrade their infrastructure, upgrade their curriculum, upgrade their teaching, learning, evaluation mechanism, the leadership, governing, student support, research, innovation, so that when they go for assessment and accreditation through NEC or some other accreditation agencies, they get good grades. Because the grades will give you the autonomy, and by that autonomy, you will have the freedom. And by that, the dreams of the NEP 2020 can definitely be realized. Institutions all alike, no distinction between public and private institutions, multidisciplinary education and research universities, multidisciplinary institutions, overcoming faculty shortage, which is a big problem in our country, faculty shortage, and mentoring, which is very, very important. A national mission for mentoring will be established. For teacher education institution, 4-year B.Ed will be there. And now, when it comes to the implementation part, who will implement the NEP 2020? I think there are 4 pillars of implementation. Stakeholders, which includes alumni, parents, and even the governments, schools, that is the institutions, staff, teaching and non-teaching staff, and students. And if they all work in coordination, then definitely we can think of implementing NEP 2020. Friends, there are few buzzwords in the academic arena these days: quality, skill, values, online teaching, NEP, Atmanirbhar Bharat. When Bharat will be Atmanirbhar? When its residents are Atmanirbhar. And who are the residents and who are the main contributors to the development of a nation? It is the youth. And where is the youth? Youth is in the educational institutions. And when we talk of education, it reminds me of the words of Swami Vivekananda, that we want the education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. This was said long, but could we come up to the expectations what he expected by saying these words? I think no. That's why whatever is written is in NEP 2020, बहुत अच्छी बातें हुई हैं, बहुत अच्छे dreams हैं, बहुत अच्छे destinations हैं, but ultimately the responsibility lies on the shoulders of the policy makers, academic leaders, and the education institutions. National education policy, it particularly emphasizes on the development of the creative potential of the individuals, is a key enabler and best tool for achieving economic, social mobility, inclusion, and equality. And for that, what we have to do? Innovation and improvements in curriculum, teaching learning processes, examination and evaluation systems. Now, it has already dawned, जो हम कहते हैं कि जो स्वर्णिम सफर है नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी का, जिससे भारत को विश्व गुरु बनने की राह में चलने का सपना देख रहे हैं, वो ऑलरेडी हमारे देश में शुरू हो चुका है. But this has seeds of total paradigm shift of education in this country, and the workplace cannot remain untouched in the present environment where winds of change are blowing. But what we say that we will change the content, we will change the pedagogy, but will it definitely work? I think the way we look at the education has to be changed, and call has to be taken by the institutions, policymakers, domain experts, multilateral agencies, opinion makers, industry experts from the education sector, academic leaders, the teachers, and the stakeholders. And it will happen only when we change our attitude. National education policy, it says that don't only educate, kindly educate, encourage, and enlighten the children. And 5 pillars you must have gone through: access, affordability, equity, quality, and accountability. People interchangeably use the word equity and equality just to make a difference between the two. I have seen included this picture that in equality everybody is treated with the same way, the same kind of facilities are being provided. But when we say equity, everybody is provided with the facility which he or she needs. So this is the difference between equality and equity. And when we talk of the NEP, the gist of the NEP is that don't focus on output based, but outcome based. Don't focus on quantity, please focus on quality. And don't only focus on academic development, but focus on holistic development, knowledge, skill, capacity, and competence. And the role of education and educators, that is the teachers, academic leaders, and administrators, is very important. And for that, we have to reorient education that strives towards a vibrant, prosperous, enlightened system, generating knowledge and new ideas so as to make it locally need-based, socially relevant, nationally important, and globally significant. Education and excellence through quality initiatives and best practices. Education is all inclusive. It has to be, but excellence is always exclusive. And for that, we have to have holistic development of students, represent and promote the educational, social, economic, and cultural interest of students beside constitutional responsibilities. They have to be there always, making them self-reliant, preparing them to compete globally, feeling of patriotism, nationalism, and secularism, and significantly contributing to societal development and national development. Higher education institutes, what should be the vision? In tune with the NEP 2020, providing access, equity, and quality, improving teaching learning with technology, knowledge creation, innovation ecosystem, capacity building and competencies, research outcomes. And what should be the strategic planning? Global networking, strategic alliances, technology-enabled learning, e-content and resource-based learning, research collaboration, demand-driven programs, and active industry academy interface. Rather, the integration needs to be there in the educational institutions and technology incubation. Education imperatives, skills and knowledge, education, quality, develop key behavioral skills, learning approach, excellence, talent transformation. And this is very important. Skill gap concerns for industry, ability to grow, innovate, talent transformation, deliver products, service on time, meet quality standards, meet environmental and social requirements. Now, we as academic leaders and teachers think, and we have to do also, to continuously update to meet out the landscape of higher education, which has been transitory, to meet the changing educational goals, to move forward in this eternal journey of quality in higher education, to meet the changing dynamics of the requirements of the population with regard to quality education, innovation and research, to eliminate the shortage of manpower in science, technology, academics and industry, and meet out the global needs and produce market industry ready graduates equipped with necessary skills and knowledge to compete globally. It has put a serious challenge to the established dogmas and requires a paradigm shift in our present education system. And to understand all the steps and measures adopted should ensure value-based skill education, which everybody is talking about in the country, skill, skill and skill. But you have to have will also. To acquire skill, you have to have the will with human touch so that a decent society can be bequeathed to the coming generations. Both these needs and requirements call for rising importance of quality education and its assurance. And this is the best example it has ever happened. During COVID-19 pandemic, there has been complete transition from face-to-face learning, teaching learning to online teaching through, though there are some confounding factors. So it clearly proves what we used to study at our school level, where there is a will, there is a way, and necessity is the mother of invention. Even the people who were quite reluctant to become well versed with the technology, maybe the old age people, 55 plus, or they also fall in line and they started taking online classes. And also we have to learn that we need not to work hard, we need to work smart. The meaning and the morals of the stories are changing with the changing times. The thirsty crow story, now the crow will take the straw from the market and he will drink water and fly away. That we have to cope up with the changing times. And you have two options. Problem is there. Either bhag lo ya bhag lo. Run away or participate. So we as a leaders, teachers and administrators, we cannot run away. We have to participate. And as everybody is saying, there is a paradigm shift. So there is a need to change. And when you want to change, you have to face the challenge. Once you overcome the challenge, it becomes opportunity. तो कुछ लोग थे जो वक्त के सांचे में ढल गए, कुछ लोग थे जो वक्त के सांचे बदल गए. So you have to change the molds. You need not to succumb to the molds which are prevailing. So change can be a challenge or an opportunity, and implementation of NEP 2020 is a big challenge. My previous speaker had used some word impossible. So, and Dr. Patil was talking about that it may take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and several parameters, maybe decades. Challenge is big. But if we are able to overcome that challenge, then opportunity is also big. And for that, we have to build an attitude, and we have to think out of the box and developing an ecosystem. And teachers should know the answers to all these questions. When, what, where, how, why, and whom. जब भी आप कोई काम करना चाहें, whenever you want to start some program, whenever you want to interact with your students, please keep these questions in your minds and come prepared with the answers also. And building the attitude, which is very, very important, but it has to become within. If you will put pressure, then maybe something else may happen. So if an egg is broken from an outside force, life ends. If an egg breaks from within, life begins. So great things always begin from within. And we have to think beyond the box, not only routine curriculum, not only the course contents, but apart from that, value-based skill education, health and health management, disaster management, waste management, legal literacy, gender equality, environment, human values, professional ethics. All these we have to inculcate in our curriculum so that the students can be holistically developed. This is a very beautiful slide. We have to think that whether we want to impart only material knowledge to our students through academics, or we want to give them spiritual knowledge also. If we want to holistically develop them, we want to make them perfect human beings which have concerns about the society also, about the country also, and they are significantly contributing for societal and national development, then they should be adorned with the spiritual knowledge also, which will give you great life, truth and simplicity, and it has self-maintained and sustainable without any cost. It will give you quality, it will improve you, you will grow through the life, cocoon to butterfly, and it will transform you. But as of now, if we will continue to focus only on material knowledge, academics, then you may have a great lifestyle. It may pay you, but can do nothing to your inner systems besides huge maintenance cost. Instead of quality, you will have quantity, stressed, depressed, oppressed, but still well dressed. Instead of improving through, you will prove to the world, I am so and so, I am so and so, but it is of no use that way. And instead of grow through life, you will go through the life, starting from milk bottle to glucose. And instead of transformation, you will have only information. So we as a teachers, academic leaders, and we have to carry out the concepts which are inbuilt in the NEP 2020. We have to decide whether we will give only material knowledge to the students or we will give spiritual knowledge also. And we have to develop an ecosystem in the higher educational institutions for the implementation. These are some of the things I remember that when we used to go to schools, there were two pillars on the entrance gate. On one it was written come to learn, and on another it was written go to serve. So ये concepts, ये बातें, ये सब पहले से हैं. They are already there in the books. Not it is not new in the NEP 2020, but we are just trying to bring back the rich and strong cultural values in our Indian education system. So ecosystem has to be developed, and then training the trainers and mentoring the mentors programs are very, very important, and they should have the right kind of exposure, domain knowledge, technology, attitude and mindset, faculty development. And friends, faculty is not the physical body. It is the attitude of a person, mind, intellect, thinking, heart and soul. This all is included. Only then you can say that the faculty of the particular person is developed. Innovation and critical thinking, research oriented. This I have included in my presentation because don't expect everything from the students. The student will do this, student will do this. First, we have to acquire all these traits amongst ourselves. Only then we can give it to our students. And only then we can say that good teachers, otherwise good teachers produce good students and bad teachers produce, you can understand yourself. So what is the paradigm shift in pedagogy, which is expected to realize this NEP 2020? Behaviorism, you have to go to cognitivism, constructivism and metacognitivism. And pedagogy to andragogy I discussed. Individual learning to cooperative and collaborative and participatory learning. Expository learning to discovery learning, and linear approach to non-linear approach. And teacher has to think about this. 1969, if the marks of the student are less, the principal and parents are asking the student why you have performed badly. But today, if the situation is like this, even the parents and student, they are asking the teacher, you explain why the bad grades are there. So please consider this teaching not as a profession, take it as a passion. And we have to also think that if I cannot learn the way you teach me, can you teach me the way I can learn? So we should apply and we should answer to this question by the student. And also a famous quotation by Benjamin Franklin, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. So involve your students in learning process. And the most important is the skill development among students. Teaching should include more practical research-based training, that is 50% theory and 50% practical. Theory and practical should be linked. And for this, the integration between an institution and the industry is a must. Whenever you try to start some program, invite professionals from industry, take their input and incorporate that into curriculum, so that the student can read it in the institution and have the practical exposure in the concerned industry. In this way, the chances of employment and placement are also increased. And the undergraduate vocational courses are pivotal in producing skilled graduates in tune with Industrial Revolution 4.0. And there should be a match between Industry 4.0 and Education 4.0, which says that innovation producing education. 1.0 is lectures and memorization. कभी हमारे समय में जो होता था जब हम पढ़ते थे, then came the internet enabled learning, and then came knowledge producing education, and education 4.0 is innovation producing education, skill development. This is the mismatch, the requirement and what we are providing, and even what we are providing has not got the right kind of skill. That's why this mismatch is there. And through this NEP, definitely provide that even the students of middle level shall be exposed to hands-on training in vocational skills like carpentry, plumbing, electrical repairing, horticulture, pottery, embroidery, so that the skill gap. We say that India has a demographic dividend, that it is a rich country, it's a young country. Sorry, it is a young country. The average age is not that much, but if we are not able to tune the potential of the youths in our institutions, then it may take a U-turn and it may prove otherwise also. So this is very, very important, where we have to look into again some points where there is a mismatch between the skill which is required by the industries and the skill which is being provided to the students. In knowledge-driven economy where skill is a currency, what are the skills we want our students to acquire? Critical thinking, creative thinking, keen observation, problem solving, ability, capacity, competence, communication and language, social skills. What are the qualities we want our students to imbibe? Curiosity, positive thinking, creative thinking, innovative thinking, bravery, emotional, spiritual and social values, sympathy and empathy, self-confidence. And teacher, who will do it? But the teachers will do it. This is the transition from knowledge hub to facilitator. He has to act, and one who develops an ecosystem and inspires to learn. किसी ने पूछा, अच्छा teacher कौन होता है? One who teaches is a teacher. Who is the best teacher? One who inspires to learn. So we have to be inspirer. We have to be facilitator. And the qualities and values expected from students are the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, moral, social, integrity, ethics and teamwork, and skills. There are two types of skills. Conventional skills, जो मैं अभी कह रहा था कि +2 level तक carpentry, plumbing, electrician, this and that, and emerging skills are also we are expected to provide to our students in higher educational institutions. Apart from communication, life, cognitive, technical, industrial 4.0, digital skills we have to impart: artificial intelligence, machine language, IoT, image processing, cloud computing, and analytical work. And this is very critically important when we have to deliver. Values cannot be learned, they are experienced, and skills are practiced. So when the values are experienced, means we have to develop the right kind of environment in our institutions. The values, the best practices should be internalized and institutionalized, so that whenever a student visits your institution, attends your institution, he experiences those values and acquires the skills which are being imparted in your institution, and they are practiced. But it puts tremendous pressure on the faculty to think critically with innovation and research, and truly we have to do all this. And employability skills, you have cultural skills, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, and technical or job specific skills. Online and digital education, this is the age of online and digital education, and NEP talks much about it. And in digital learning, included online learning, blended learning, e-learning, virtual learning, virtual universities, skill development universities. I personally believe that technology can be a facilitator, but technology can never replace a teacher. Only teachers can teach, and many qualities which the students learn during face-to-face interaction with the teachers cannot be taught by the these machines, cannot be taught by the technology. So the blended mode of education, which the UGC is also talking about, is very, very important, in which percentage of this online learning is there, then skill component is there, and this physical mode, face-to-face learning is also there. And there is ODL, open and distant learning is also, and the UGC, I wrote one news item that UGC has allowed 38 universities in the country wherein they can run their own programs through online mode. Current and proposed scenario towards examination, evaluation and grading system and academic bank of credit, ABC. Due to lot of diversity in the system of higher education, there are multiple approaches followed by universities toward examination, evaluation and grading system. HEIs must have flexibility and freedom in designing the examination and evaluation methods. There is a need to devise a sensible system for awarding the grades based on the performance of students. Presently, the performance of student is reported using the conventional system of marks. The conversion from marks to letter grades and the letter grades used vary widely across the country. This creates difficulty for the academia and the employers to understand and infer the performance of students graduating from different universities and colleges. And there is a marked variation across the colleges and universities in grades. UGC recommends 10-point grade system. This is, I have shown over here. And there are letter grades and grade points. Two methods, relative grading or absolute grading. Based on the distribution is the relative grading. Based on predetermined class intervals is the absolute grading. But it is not uniform throughout the system. That's why this policy is talking about the credit-based evaluation system. And this is need of the time for all undergraduate and postgraduate level and degree, diploma and certificate programs. You must be knowing what a credit is. A course credit or just credit or unit is a basic measure of student workload during learning efforts across multiple modes of learning, such as lectures, lab work, assignments, self-study, e-learning, etc. And it is decided by the student workload, the learning outcomes, and the content hours. The credit system allows an institute to specify programs and individual courses in terms of their required credit load. A credit-based academic architecture makes it easy for a program to be updated and remain current. There are many advantages of credit-based education system, which is accepted system at universities all over the world. Quantifies academic work done by the student, transfer of credits from one university to other, accepted by industry while giving jobs to students. And this is what is mentioned in the NEP 2020, that some of the credits a student can do from any other universities depending on his own choice. So academic bank of credit, as per national education policy, the academic bank of credit has been envisaged to facilitate the academic mobility of students with the freedom to study across the higher education institutions in the country with an appropriate credit transfer. Maybe it is degree, diploma or PG diploma. It is envisaged as a digital bank that holds the credit earned by a student in any course. The University Grant Commission has set up academic bank of credit. This has already been approved by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, launched the Academic Bank of Credit ABC on July 29, 2021 under the National Education Policy. And the regulation offers four major promises: freedom and flexibility, standardization, robust integration, and a move towards internalization of Indian higher education. ABC will be responsible for opening, closing, and validating the academic accounts of students. It will also perform tasks including credit verification, credit accumulation, credit transfer of students. The courses will also include online and distant mode courses. They will also be included under the scheme. The validity can also vary based on the subject or discipline. Students can redeem these credits. For instance, if a student has accumulated 100 credits, which are equivalent to say 1 year, and they decide to drop out, they can. Only they decide to rejoin, they can redeem this credit and seek admission directly in the second year at any university. The validity will be up to 7 years, hence student will have to rejoin within 7 years. Though this chance is there, the students can drop depending upon their situation and they can rejoin, but still there is a limit, and that validity is for 7 years. And the benefits: multiple entry exit students to ensure this scheme, and the credits are needed. Store student credit for 7 years, transfer credit through a single window after approval of source and destination academic institution. Only verified academic institution can upload the credits, improves transparency and helps to build a more flexible approach to curriculum design and development. Multidisciplinary education for the holistic development of the students, to inculcate skills, inculcate values, to inculcate competence, intelligence, analytical skills, innovative skills, critical thinking. This multidisciplinary education is a must, and the provision is there altogether, for which the student has to have some core courses, then he has to have some elective courses, and then ability enhancement courses he should opt in the institution. Fairness in assessment, 50% of the core courses, question paper will be set as well as assessed by external examiners. Practical component has to be there. Half of the examiners in the team should be invited from outside, and project reports, thesis and dissertation has to be there, and it is to be evaluated by internal as well as external examiners. And integration of languages की बात NEP में it has been largely talked about. Bharat is such a diverse country with more than 44,000 dialects as mother tongues, changing every 15 to 20 kilometers according to native communication style, and 22 official languages. But some of the languages are in danger as per UNESCO report. But this policy, they are talking about the integration of Indian languages, and those contents, the study contents, they are available on the various portals, and those portals are being managed by the universities, and their research to the end will be funded by National Research Foundation. The policy also stated the introduction of e-courses in 8 major regional languages instead of limiting the e-content to Hindi and English. E-courses will be developed in Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Gujarati, Marathi, Odisha, and Bengali. More HEIs and more programs in higher education will use a mother tongue or local language as a measure of instruction and or offer programs bilingually. Thus, there will be no controversy as one can choose in which language he wants to be instructed. This is about the medium of instruction. English as a subject will be introduced in the primary classes, but it need not to be medium of instruction compulsorily. Even in higher education, including professional courses like medical, engineering, etc., a provision has been made for providing an opinion of Bharatiya language medium. This is a great revolution. And this has been largely talked about, that this 5+3+3+4 system में जो बात करते हैं, तो जो foundation course है और जो preparatory course है, in that the languages allowed are mother tongue, home language, and regional languages there, and this is all indicating of the integration of Indian languages. That provision has been made, and the major positive aspects are the 6% of GDP on education, capping on school fees, vocational education, and results will be declared not only on marks. It will be assessment by self, assessment by friends, assessment by teachers. So this will also improve the general environment in the institutions. And apart from this, deep awareness will be there, no cutthroat competition. And there will be transition from competition to cooperation and collaboration, and competition within oneself, and teachers' respect will be ensured. And this integration of this languages and all this, recently there was an advertisement that BTech Hindi माध्यम से करने का सुनहरा मौका government has published in our own state, wherein the 3 universities, Guru Jambhesar University, Deenbandhu Choturam Vigyan एवं प्रौद्योगिकी विश्वविद्यालय और जगदीश चंद्र बोस विज्ञान एवं प्रौद्योगिकी विश्वविद्यालय, they have started BTech programs in Hindi medium. About Haryana state, on 30th of July, when there was a meeting, and Honorable Chief Minister was there, where he formally launched the implementation of NEP 2020. He assured the successful implementation of national education policy in the state by the year 2025. Institutions to give education from KG to PG. This model is also there, that in the single institution, there is facility from KG to PG, and more so, July 29 to be celebrated as New Education Policy Day every year in the state, and to review the progress of the aims and objectives of NEP 2020. So New Education Policy NEP 2020, to summarize, envisages a sea change in the field of education. It clearly identifies the challenges in the education system and suggests measures for higher education institutions with the aim to develop good human beings capable of rational thought and actions, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination, with sound ethical moorings and values. The new education policy states that the quality enhancement and sustenance is the need of the hour, and this enhances the role of NAAC and other regulatory agencies tremendously. And for this, we have different agencies. To portray the status of higher education in the country, quantity-wise and quality-wise, we have All India Survey on Higher Education, we have National Assessment and Accreditation Council, We have National Board of Accreditation, NBA, and the National Institutional Ranking Framework, NIRF. Data presentation and analysis, AISHE. This talks about organic growth and composition of enrollment, recruitment, and infrastructure education, NIRF outcome-based ranking, NBA outcome and process-based program, assessment and accreditation, and NEP process-based grading, institutional assessment and accreditation. Accreditation reflects quality and is absolute, while its ranking is relative. Our journey to quality, accreditation, and excellence, because we aspired for it, we tried for it, and we offered for it. That's why we could get it. In the first cycle, we got B++ in 2002. I joined this institution in 2009, and exactly after 5 years, we went for the second cycle. We got A grade from NEC, and then during third cycle in 2019, we got A++. National Assessment and Accreditation Council, because this program is being organized by NEC, then maybe most of you know about it, but this is the flagship quality assurance agency of India, an autonomous body established to address the bottlenecks highlighted by both National Policy on Education 1986 and the Plan of Action 1992. It came into vogue on 16 September 1994, and the mandate of NEC is to make quality assurance an integral part of functioning of higher education institutions. NEC evaluates the institutions for its conformance to the standards of quality set. There is a need for quality, relevance and excellence, and quantity, increased access of education offered in the country for overall development. Next journey of assessing and accrediting Indian colleges and other HEIs started in the year 1994. And since then, the NEC is advocating for quality, sustenance, and enhancement, and regularly and periodically assessing and accrediting the institutions. Assessment is a systematic basis for making inferences about the learning and development of students. It is the process of defining, selecting, designing, collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and using information, empirical data to refine our programs. Accreditation in higher education institution is a collegial process based on self and peer assessment. It is being a quality any university or educational institution when it is recognized to possess a certain set of quality benchmarks and standards, we say that it is accredited. Means accreditation reflects about the quality of education which is being imparted in the institution, quality of institution, and the institution possesses a certain set of quality benchmarks. Friends, most of the institutions, I will show you the data or also in 2-3 slides, I will end up, that the colleges or the institutions are quite reluctant in coming for assessment and accreditation. But it should not be like this. Why assessment and accreditation? I would like to say it plays a vital role in development of any nation. Therefore, there is a premium on both quality and quantity of excellence of academic programs offered of higher education. Like in any other domain, the method to improve quality remains the same. Finding and recognizing new needs and satisfying them with products and services of international standards. The NEC has been set up to help all participating institutions assess their performance with set parameters. A rating agency for academic excellence across India and the country's first such efforts. And there is a letter from this UGC also. As per UGC quality mandate, every institution has to be assessed and accredited by 2022. Maybe this corona pandemic, these timelines may be extended, but definitely there exist some timelines in which every institution has to be assessed and accredited. And there have been news items at various occasions. कुछ शिक्षण संस्थानों को गुणवत्ता के मानक पर खरा उतरना होगा. Meetings are there, and then instructions are there, directions are there. But in spite of all this, I find that the institutions are quite reluctant in coming forward. And the benefit of for going for assessment and accreditation, please don't worry about the grade, what grade you are going to get. But definitely there are certain advantages of that, because NEC always talks and aspires for quality, which includes quest for excellence, understanding the concept, action-oriented, learner-centric approach, innovation for change, training to build competencies, and year-round activity. And when you say that it is a quality institution, that quality has to be there, that culture of quality has to be there in all domains, maybe curricular aspect, teaching, learning, evaluation, research, innovation, and extension, infrastructure and learning resources, student support and progression, governing leadership and management, and the institutional values and best practices. And this is very simple, and only the stakeholder requirements are fulfilled through this.
Sarji, can I disturb you? Sarji, sorry to disturb you when you are so passionately speaking about NAAC and engaging to participants, but maybe we have to give some time for interaction. तो मैं सोच रहा था कि if you don't mind, we can.
Last slide I am ending. Then
जी
process has
जी.
to be there, output has to be there, and then it ultimately needs to stakeholders. And there are 7 criteria on which, and the deliverables. If you go for NAAC assessment and accreditation, building up capacity of the institution in data capture and presentation, SWOT analysis, and analysis for remedial actions, adoption of appreciable best practices, strategy formulation for quality sustenance in all areas of academics, and enables the institutions to transform into a center of excellence. And benefits, these are some of the benefits which institutions get when they go for assessment and accreditation. And this ultimately leads to positioning institutions at global level, perception enhancement among stakeholders, and fostering global competencies among students. But this is the scenario. When we talk of Haryana, for this the assessment and accreditation, the percentage institutions are only 29.9%. But if we look at some other states, Chandigarh, Delhi, Goa, Nagaland, the percentage is quite encouraging. So at this point of time, I would like to call upon all HEIs in our own state that they should prepare for that and they should come forward for assessment and accreditation. Now coming back to NEP, people say that destination is very well defined, but how about the journey? And journey is the implementation part, which has to be taken by academic leaders. And which is more important? Ask Big Panda, the journey or the destination. The company said Tiny Dragon. So the company is very, very important. What the NEP is asking us to do and what we want to do, we have to work in a collaboration. And friends, now this is the time. Wake up, no, tell others, contribute and make the policy successful. I remind the words of Swami Vivekananda, arise, awake and stop not till the goal is achieved. And this is a roadmap what we have to achieve. As Dr. Hemant Varma was talking about, that by 2025 our Honorable Chief Minister has said that we will be implementing this in our state by 2025. So this is the roadmap. We have to do it like this. And but this is the last slide. People will talk about it. India has over 51,000 HEIs. This, along with the large student population, constrained pupil-teacher ratio, diverse demographics, and distinct rural-urban divide over infrastructure, human resource, learning resources, digital divide, reliable internet connectivity or stable electric supply in rural areas make the Indian higher education landscape unique and complex. The pandemic-related challenges have added additional layers of complexity. Given the diversity in our institution and challenges faced by them, Indian HEIs cannot rely on a one-size-fits-all strategy. Different approaches will need to be applied while planning the practices to achieve the objectives and face the challenges. Challenges are very big, but opportunities will also be very big. And for that, institutions need to go one step beyond to build strong institutional capacity to maximize outreach. Thank you for providing me this opportunity, and thank you all the listeners, participants for listening me.
Thank you, Krishakantji. You very meticulously, I mean very briefly, because the entire topic is a very wide gamut. You have tried to give a deep insight on the various issues, such as the founding pillars of the national education policy of access, affordability, equity, quality, accountability, multidisciplinary, the Indian knowledge system, online education system, giving in detail the statistics of assessment and accreditation of various states, what needs to be done, especially in terms of Haryana state to come forward for accreditation. To all the participants, Krishakantji has been an ambassador for NAAC. At any point of time when we call, he is readily accepting our invitation in spite of his busy schedule. And even if there are changes in the program schedule also, he is we are very sir, grateful to you that even changes also that we do, we readily accepted. So we are indebtedly, highly obliged that you accepted our invitation and delivered an excellent presentation. I hope that all the participants would be immensely benefited, sir. Thank you once again to you, sir. Patil sir, just
Indraji,
sir.
Indaji, just I join you in thanking Krishnakanji. He has, made excellent articulation and tried to cover, as it's a very challenging topic, very vast topic, but we have given him very limited time. So, but I think we will have some question answer. My suggestion is that, since we have already exceeded some time, maybe we'll request the participant to focus the questions directing to, we have three eminent people. We have the Hemant Kumarji from the Higher Education Department. We have Raghavji, and we also have Krishnakantji. So maybe we can limit the questions to up to 2 minutes and response also to 2 minutes. And maybe we can take all questions collectively, and then we'll request the our speakers to respond them one by one, so that we can still manage the time, and if people have to leave for other engagements that they have, they can leave. So
JP
we
sir,
collect the questions both orally as well as in the chat box.
yeah, JP sir, one request. Hemant sir will be presenting just for 2 minutes. Whatever the policies, initiatives they have taken for implementation of national education policy, sir. He will be just taking 2 minutes.
Good,
Hemant
good. No problem. So after that, we will take up the
Yes, sir.
questions.
Hemantji, please.
हेमंत जी अनम्यूट करो अपने आप को.
Thank you, Dr. Sham. I'm not able to. Now I'm able to share my screen. Just 1 second. Do I have to share the file or the window?
You have to share the slide. Please keep the PPT open.
PPT is open.
You have to share from the slide, sir. Slide option will be coming. So it's visible, sir.
No, this is not the presentation. Yeah, is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I must compliment my senior colleague, Dr. Krishan-Kant Agarwal, for giving a very detailed presentation on NEP as well as NAAC. He has covered all the aspects. So through this presentation, which I'm going to make, I'll be taking you through what Haryana thinks and what Haryana is doing. What are the timelines of Haryana government for implementation of the NEP 2020? So this is the roadmap, as you can all see. Now, this is an introduction kind of a thing that we all know that NEP aims to address the growing development in India through revision and revamping of all aspects of education structure, regulation, governance, SDG 4 and aspirational goal of 21st century, and building India's traditions and value systems. Now, this is the vision of Haryana government to empower students with knowledge, skills, and values to increase their employability by enhancing accessibility of quality education, ensuring equity and inclusion, encouraging higher standards of teaching and learning with accountability, promoting best practices in research and innovation. So we are focusing on all the key areas of NEP. This is the vision of the state government. Now, these are the national targets, and we have a vision to implement most of the key features of NEP in letter and spirit by 2025. Now, this is the detailed implementation plan. implementation in the state in a phased manner by 2021, with majority coverage by 2025 by the state government. And we are preparing a team of teachers and experts at the level of, just hold on, 5 minutes. You can wait outside. We are preparing a team of teachers and experts at the level of universities that can assist and counsel different institutions in the implementation of NEP. And this will be done in a snowball manner. And we are creating awareness among teachers and students on the benefits of NEP through mass media, publicity, and talks, counseling. And this will be carried out throughout these 4-5 years. Now, when we go by criteria wise, component wise, so one of the component is the quality universities and colleges, in which there are 4-5 main deliverables. That is large multidisciplinary universities and colleges, skilling, revamping of curriculum, light but tight regulation, opening of more colleges for providing access. So we have set up a timeline of 2022 for this. And most of the areas we are already doing a lot of things. 8 of our universities are already multidisciplinary. They are being upgraded as Meru. We have opened 172 government colleges, and now the state government has a policy of providing colleges at a radius of 20 kilometers. And moreover, skilling is going to be a part of curriculum, as Dr. Agarwal presented in his lecture, that skilling should be a part of curriculum. So our universities have been directed to make necessary changes in the curriculum. This is being done by the state universities. When we talk of more holistic and multidisciplinary education, setting up of Meru is one of the important initiative. And we have some districts where there is no state university, so there are private universities in these districts: Ambala, Charki, Dadri, Fatehbad, Nuh, Panipat, Panchkula, Yamunanagar, and Jhajjar. So maybe in the times to come, we will work on covering these districts by providing some Merus in these districts. And already 8 state universities are following the concept of Meru. Choice-based credit system, universities have already started implementing this in their campuses as well as colleges. Then we are providing flexibility in, this is a main component for this state universities are working, that master's program, 4 years bachelor and 1 year master program, 3 years bachelor with 2 years master program, then 5 years bachelor master program. This is already running in many universities. So this will be done in a phased manner in almost all the universities and colleges by 2022. Then optimal learning environment and support for students. This is important. Mentorship is one of the important areas. So we have leader colleges, as Dr. Agarwal's college is a leader college. These colleges and universities, they help and they handhold the laggards. And this mentor-mentee concept is being carried out in Haryana in a systematic manner, and they keep on organizing workshops. These colleges, the lead colleges, they keep on organizing workshops of laggard colleges and handhold them for NAAC and other important initiatives. Multiple entry and exit system. This is important, though this is complex also. So it will be done, I think, by 2023. By that time, we will get some good guidelines from the Government of India also. So ODL, open distance learning, as Dr. Agarwal mentioned in his presentation, it will be done as per Government of India guidelines by 2023. Student spaces, this is an important recommendation of NEP. Most of our colleges and universities are already providing these libraries, reading rooms, and other spaces for students in their campuses. This internationalization is under this component. We are thinking that we'll be providing financial assistance to our faculty members for participation in international research programs, conferences, and seminars. We will be signing MOUs with top 100 global universities for dual degree program, massive open online courses, and to increase the inflow of international students in Haryana. And this will be done as per the Government of India guidelines. Then we are considering organizing international visit of our meritorious students to some good universities abroad. So for this scheme is being formalized, and by 2023 this will be rolled out. Then we are working for motivated, energized, and capable faculty. Basic infrastructure is being provided. This is done, and this is almost in all the new colleges and universities are state-of-the-art campuses they have. Timely teacher recruitment is important, and for this we are making a continuous process so that our vacant posts are filled up in maximum 2 to 3 years. Pre-service training, 1 month compulsory induction program for newly recruited teachers and principals. Will be doing that by next year, and in-service training, which will be linked to career progression, annual increments. So under this, 1 week faculty development program after every 3 consecutive years is being planned by Department of Higher Education. Equity and inclusion, we have already targeted scholarship schemes. Computers, this is important, providing access to computer and laptops and internet services in the campuses. So we are providing computers and computers infrastructure to all the colleges. But we may also think of, if the budget allows, to provide this laptop or tablets to our marginalized section. So this is at a very initial stage. So this can be done. We can think of doing that with the support of Government of India also. And disabled friendly campuses. All our new colleges, they are disabled friendly. We have established Ashtavakra Kendra at Government College Karnal and Government Polytechnic, Sector 26, Panchkula. Here, hearing and speech impaired students are provided the sign language teaching. So a lot of things have already been done, and many things are in pipeline to implement in the next 2 to 3 years. Then teacher education, this is important by 2025 because this is 4-year integrated program as NEP envisages. So maybe for this policy initiatives to be taken, we need to give a public notice, then 1 year time frame for colleges to respond, and then to set up a policy framework how these colleges can be multidisciplinary and how this BA, BSc, BEd or BCom, BSc, BCom, BEd program can be run in these colleges, because in Haryana, see, we have around 475 such colleges which are BEd colleges, self-financing BEd colleges. So it's a mammoth task. So by 2025, we aim to make all these colleges into multidisciplinary colleges. Vocational education, we have incubator centers in 5 districts, in 7 universities. Then vocational education is going to be a part of mainstream education. For these universities, I have been requested by 2025 they will be doing that. Then catalyzing quality academic research in fields, we are setting up exclusive centers of excellence in universities for providing multidisciplinary collaborative research. Governance reforms, they are already in process. Institutional development plan, we have devised a uniform IDP, and we are waiting for the IDP to be provided by Government of India. In the last meeting of Government of India, it was informed that Government of India is providing a template also. So we'll be issuing that template to all the universities and colleges in an online manner, and they will then develop their institution development plan and upload all the information on the MIA system. Autonomy is a major concern in Haryana. So we are waiting for the new guidelines on autonomy by Government of India as per the NEP 2020. Clustering, we are working on that if one lead college, for example, there is a college in Vallabhgarh, that can be a lead college which has which is NAAC A+, and then it can be linked with 3 to 5 other colleges within its vicinity to formalize the clustering process and all the recommendations of NEP in this regard. Indian languages, new courses on yoga, astrology, palmistry. We have already given these some of these courses in our colleges. Then we are working on providing scholarship for the promotion of music and Sanskrit language. We have already a Sanskrit University in Haryana. A Sanskrit college has been set up in Panchkula. We are already working in this direction to promote Indian languages, especially Sanskrit, and other cultural branches of ancient Indic languages. ERP, e-dashboard, LMS, everything is going to take place by 2022. Ethical and moral education, we are thinking of providing a new course on ethical values by 2022. Then online and digital education, ensuring equitable use of technology, for which blended learning will be done, and smart classrooms are being provided. Adult education, this is a new initiative of the department. We will be working on this initiative also, and courses will be started with flexible timing in government colleges. Maybe in the evening, we can provide these courses for the working executives also, for adults also who are not who want to pursue higher education after their job hours. This is a new concept of Government of Haryana, KG to PG under one roof. This is experimental collaboration between a school and a university. And for this, Kurukshetra University, MD University, Kanpur University, and DCRUST both have been identified. Kurukshetra University has already a campus school, and a proper policy framework has been done so that a student, when he enters a school at the KG level, he completes his post-graduation or maybe PhD under one roof from the same campus. So it will have many advantages to that student for the overall development of that student. This is going to be implemented in a phased manner. So this was a crisp and short presentation, and we aim to implement NEP 2020 within the timelines, and most probably by 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hemant sir, for briefing us the initiatives taken by Haryana government already for implementation of NEP 2030. And we are sure under your able leadership, and this will be implemented as it is intended as presented by the presentation. May I request now the ICT team to kindly facilitate the question and answer session from the participants. Participants are kindly requested to either raise your hand or you can write your queries in the chat box. The panelists present out here will respond to your queries.
I request the participant to kindly raise their hand if they have any question. Sir, I couldn't see any hand raised.
It's a question from Dinesh Kumar Mehta in the chat box. So my question is that small colleges in so many states having just a minute. My question is that small colleges in so many states having no good infrastructure facilities, even they are not paying right amount of salary to their employees. So I think it is a big challenge to guide such institution for NAAC inspection for the assessment of their quality. Vishwakanti, Hemanji, would you like to respond to the query, sir?
Can you please repeat the question? I couldn't listen to what you said.
I'll repeat it again. My question is that small college in so many states having no good infrastructure facilities, even they are not being paid right amount of salary. So I think it is a big challenge to guide such institutions for NAAC inspection for the assessment of their quality.
Yeah, this is a very valid point raised by Dr. Dinesh Kumar Mehta. And it is true that small colleges have their own problems. They don't have infrastructure, proper infrastructure. Mainly, such colleges are private colleges. They are self-financing colleges. So we need to handle them in such a way that they are prepared for NAAC parameters and everything. Maybe NAAC can drops a different kind of a system for inspection of such colleges, because these colleges have their own set of problems. So you cannot have uh, all the colleges, you cannot keep all the colleges in the same category, because there is a college in Vallabhgarh that is as old as 50 years old, and then there is a college in the same district which is very new, which is being run by some private sponsoring bodies. So they might have some challenges as far as infrastructure is concerned. So this issue can be addressed by, I think, NAAC at a national level.
Thank you, Hemanji. There is one more question, I think, that is pertaining to NAAC and NRF. It's by Abhishek Tyagiji. So I represent a new institution into hospitality and culinary education, and we will be completing our 5 years next year. Would would it be feasible? I would like to know from the expert, such as a new institution, can we go ahead for NAAC and NRF?
Should I respond to this?
Would you like to respond to it?
Yeah. I can respond.
कृष्णकांत जी, आप जवाब देंगे सर प्लीज?
Hello.
हाँ, बोलिए कृष्णकांत जी.
Yeah, they can definitely go for NAAC assessment and accreditation. The condition is either 6 years or 3 batches passed out. So after completion of 6 years, they can come for first cycle of NAAC assessment and accreditation.
Any more hands raised, Pusha?
No, sir, I couldn't see. Dr. Anam Verma, you may ask your question.
आनंद वर्मा जी, आप पूछ सकते हैं.
हाँ जी सर. सर, जो ये पीएचडी के लिए फॉर हायर एजुकेशन कोई इनिशिएटिव लिया है NEP 2020 ने, लाइक द पीपल हु आर वर्किंग इन द कॉलेजेस एज असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर एंड दे वांट टू डू पीएचडी, बट द थिंग इज कि 6 months का कोर्स वर्क होता है, तो दे कांट गो एंड अटेंड दैट 6 months ऑफ कोर्स वर्क. सो डिजिटलाइजेशन होने से मे बी इज देयर एनी चेंज कि कोर्स वर्क जो है वो 6 months का रिमूव हो जाए या फिर वो ऑनलाइन ही हो जाए? And the thing is, like in MDU also, here in Haryana, we are not getting the supervisor. Only MD university के जो हैं, like the people working there, उन्हीं को ही हम जो एग्जाम होता है वो देकर ही हम PhD कर सकते हैं. I want कि if one wants to do PhD, तो जो eligible persons हैं in the state, like principals or any other associate professors, तो हम उनको join होने अपना supervisor बनाकर अपनी PhD continue कर सके. और some मतलब help me out how we can do it while working.
See, ma'am, I would like to respond to it. You have raised 3 issues. One is that you are saying that universities should allow principals and senior teachers from colleges to act as guides.
Yes, sir.
This is one query. Second is that this coursework should be provided through online mode.
Yes, sir.
And third is, what was the third one?
Sir, any initiative in this new education policy for higher education PhD? कुछ change, कुछ initiative लिया है government ने?
See, we are definitely encouraging that all our faculty members should have research to their credit, good research in the shape of a PhD or a postdoctoral. So that is there, and we are encouraging that. As far as online 6 months coursework is concerned, it is a call to be taken by the universities. I don't think they will allow that because this is a full-time 6 months coursework. It cannot be a
Yes.
part-time thing, kind of a thing. So for that, you have to take the study leave. There is the provision of study leave for this purpose. And as far as the principals and senior teachers as guides and supervisors, it is a call to be taken by the universities because in Haryana only there are 2-3 universities which are allowing their senior faculty members in colleges to act as supervisors as guide. So this is call to be taken by the state universities. The state government cannot have any role in that because it is in the domain of the universities only.
सर पीछे एक न्यूज आई थी लाइक इन फॉर यूजीसी से ही था न्यूज़पेपर में कि ऑनलाइन हो जाएगा ये कोर्स वर्क राइट फ्रॉम नेक्स्ट टू नेक्स्ट ईयर चलो ये तो अभी ड्यू टू पेंडेमिक बाय चांस ऐसा सिचुएशन हो गया इज इट एनी कोई ऐसा कुछ है गाइडलाइंस में आगे कि वो ऑनलाइन हो जाए
I don't have any idea on this. Maybe when the guidelines are out in public domain, so we'll have a better understanding on that.
थैंक यू सर थैंक यू सो मच
Push, I think there are no more hand raised or questions in the chat box.
Indaji,
Sir,
I will just supplement to the replies given by our eminent experts, just to take note of the suggestions made by the people. One is about the challenges faced by the small colleges and need for consideration of their issues in the system. And there is always talk that whether NAAC can have an independent framework or they can be helped in capacity building. So NAAC has time and again taken a stand that NAAC will have some kind of level playing field or a uniform approach in terms of affiliated colleges or category wise institutions. So wherever there are challenges in terms of infrastructure, resources, it is expected that those like state government funding agencies or their parent societies can actually come forward. So we have been advocating that NAAC's grade cannot be taken as a penal way, but if there are some institutions which secure low grade due to lack of infrastructure, they need to be supported. They need to be supported by the state, they need to be supported by the other stakeholders. So that is one issue. Another is that one question was about the eligibility. I think Krishnakanji has rightly explained the eligibility. Only thing that small correction is that it is 6 years and 2 batches passed out. And another issue by Dr. Trehan, I suppose, that I think that is a very valid suggestion, and maybe as we are collecting nationwide consultations and taking feedback from the faculty, we will definitely note it down and transmit your suggestion to the authorities that there could be some kind of national guidelines so that universities become more flexible in their approaches to facilitate the PhD guidance of the young teachers. So that was just a small addition from my part. Thank you very much.
thank you, sir. Now may I request Dr. Pratibha Singh, Deputy Advisor, Madam, to please propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Shyam. Now we have come to the end of this program. I would like to give a formal vote of thanks to all the panelists and all the speakers and all the stakeholders. Beginning with the head of the organization, I would like to thank our Honorable Director, Professor S.C. Sharma ji, for motivating each one of us to take this activity with full enthusiasm. And hopefully we will be able to interact in future also with the themes which are relevant for the higher education institutions in the country. I would like to thank the chief guest of today's program, Dr. Hemant Verma, and the key speakers of the program, Dr. Krishnakant ji and Dr. Raghav ji, for sparing their time for addressing the audience, and hopefully all the stakeholders must have taken note of their presentation and must be taking all the opinions which are there. We have been discussing these issues at various platforms, and their knowledge and wisdom given through these presentations would definitely help them to go ahead and plan for the process for implementing the NEP 2020 in their own domains. I would like to thank the entire Northern region team headed by Dr. Jagannath Patil and other colleagues, Dr. Vinita Sahu and Dr. Shyam Singh Inda for coordinating this particular event and for coordinating entire activity of Northern region. I would like to thank the entire ICT team, Ms. Pushya Lakshmi, for actively supporting these activities and from the back end and all the technical support provided. Last but not the least, the entire stakeholders and the participants who have been listening all the deliberations, although we have exceeded 42 minutes beyond the scheduled time. So hopefully these discussions will be helpful for them to take these activities forward. Thank you very much. Thank you for patient listening.
Thank you, madam. JP sir, will close the webinar, sir?
Ji. Once again, thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you to Krishnakant ji, Hemant ji, Raghav ji, and all the participants, especially the higher education Haryana. We look forward for such cooperations and future association also. Usha, can you do the needful, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.